Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Daydream Nation, and today we are going to cover our 5 favourite Rod Stewart vocal performances. So I've got special guests Ryan Gavalier from Ryan's Vinyl Destination and John the Music Nut from the Contrarians. How's it going, guys?
Great. How you doing, Peter?
Oh, great.
Fantastic. So I think, doesn't need much introduction. We all know who Rod Stewart is. So let's just cover our 5 favorite vocal performances. Ryan, hit me with your first pick.
All right. So my songs that I did were 5 rock vocal performances. I think that Rod has a lot of really great diversity in his music. He has some folkier stuff. He had some funkier stuff, some kind of disco-y, some kind of yacht rocky sounding stuff for kind of in that vein. But when we were looking at the rock stuff today, I was like, ooh, I have to really dig into that because there's a lot of different eras. You have the Jeff Beck stuff, which I actually did not pick any of today. There's the Faces. You have all of his solo stuff. So for my number 5, because I did rank these, I have All in the Name of Rock and Roll off of Atlantic Crossing from 1975. So if we're looking at the rocking songs, this one's super heavy and hard rocking, kind of has a little bit of a glammy feel. I think he gives a good raspy, aggressive vocal performance, which goes along really, really well with the riffing on here, because this is a hard rocking song. And I think when I was looking for these performances, I kind of looked both, where does he really show off that rocking performance in his voice along with the rock song, since that was what we were looking at. But yeah, that's my first song. I'm All in the Name of Rock and Roll off of Atlantic Crossing.
Yeah, good stuff. Good start. John, what have you got with your number 5?
Well, I was just telling the guys off camera before we came on. I didn't realize how much Rod Stewart was a part of my foundation as an adolescent until we started talking about this show. I grew up in the 1980s, and it seemed every summer Rod Stewart had a hit on the radio, or later on a hit on MTV, and that's a lot of great times listening to Rod Stewart's music. However, my first song is going to be from 1978, and it's perhaps his most controversial maligned song. It's Do You Think I'm Sexy from Blondes Have More Fun. To me, this was one of the best songs of the disco era.
Mm-hmm.
You have this fantastic rhythm section of Carmine Appice and Phil Chen, the wonderful synth line during after they do the choruses, which later on they found out was borrowed from someone, and they had to settle that out of court. Is just an irresistible piece of disco, a wonderful song. It's a fantastic lyric, talking about picking up someone in a club. Wonderful track, infectious, awesome. Do You Think I'm Sexy? That's my number 5.
That's one of my favorites, John. It's so good.
Oh yeah.
I love that song. That's okay. that's okay. That's why I invited you guys, because if we
That's
all
right.
agree, we would be a boring world.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. My first pick is off this album, Jeff Beck, Ola. I don't know if you can see it, Ola. This is a great album, and it's all shook up. It's the old Elvis Presley song. He's got that raspy, gritty tone to his voice, and it just cuts through. And that Jeff Beck band, Nicky Hopkins on the keyboards, Ron Wood on bass. I've been listening to a lot of the Jeff Beck band, and his bass playing has got that really big fat tone. Rod Stewart, when he was singing rock, he had the finest musicians, and Jeff Beck, you can understand why on those first couple of albums, Ola and Truth, the legend was born. But Rod's vocals on this just cuts through. It's just that beautiful tonality to his voice that alleged was built. So that's my first one, All Shook Up, 1969.
Excellent.
All righty, Ryan.
All right, so my next track is another hard rockin' one. Actually, a little later on in the 70s. I think this one was like 77. Born Loose, off of Footloose and Fancy Free. Another super, super hard rockin' song. You got that good chugging piano, the good riff and stuff. But Rod's just shouting on this song. Like he's just really, really aggressive on this. He just cuts through all the instruments, even though the instrumentation's fantastic. I think that it almost has kind of a Stonesy feel to it. That kind of like driving groove to it, kind of like a old rock and rolly kind of grit to it. And he just, like I say, he cuts through it. I love the song. I think that's actually a pretty good album too. There's some hard rock and stuff on it. Got a little bit of negative reviews, but I enjoy it. So yeah, that's my number 4. All in the Name of Born Loose from Footloose and Fancy Free.
Good stuff. John, what's your next pick?
Okay, my next one is going to be from 1988. And it's the opening single. Well, it's the first single off the Out of Order album. The song's called Lost in You. This was written by Rod Stewart and Andy Taylor. This song it's just a wonderful song about wanting to get back with your lost love that you realized you made a mistake and you want to get back with her. And it's just a fantastic song. I love the guitar lines in it. I love the production on it as well. The vocal is very self-explanatory, very catchy, wonderful track. And that's my number 4, Lost in You.
Is that Andy Taylor of Duran Duran?
Yeah, yes, correct.
Oh, wow. Okay. Great. All right. Thank you. That's a good good pick. Next one for me is off probably my favorite Jeff Beck album, Truth. So I love this album to pieces. It's one of my favorites. And this is Rock My Plimsoll. And I just love the call and response between Rod and Jeff Beck, where he goes, keep on rolling me, baby, roll me all night long. And it's just, I'm listening to it and you can see the speaker is playing the guitar and his vocals are coming out of the other speaker. And it's just absolutely brilliant. And it sort of twigged to me because a lot of David Coverdale in the Mark III lineup, he was doing that, doing Keep on Rolling Me, Baby, Roll Me All Night Long. So he was picking that up off the Jeff Beck. I just twigged. I love the grit in his voice. And I was sort of thinking it's a little bit Zeppelin, it sounds like Led Zeppelin. I'm wondering, how would Rod have sounded singing vocals for Led Zeppelin? I think some of the early material would have been really interesting because, I was just listening to it because it's sort of that similar sort of genre. But this is an old B.B. King song, but he sort of changed the lyrics. The songs and lyrics were by Jeff Beck, but I think it's a great stonker of a track, and it really just brings out the grit and that raspy tone of Rod's voice that we love. So that's my my next pick, Rock My Plimsoll. Ryan.
Okay, so now I'm actually gonna go back in time to 1970 for my number 3, the album Gasoline Alley. And the song is You're My Girl, I Don't Want to Discuss It. Oh my gosh, this song is killer. It's probably the heaviest song on this album because there actually is a lot of like folkier kind of stuff on this, but this song is just raw, it's funky, it's heavy. You would think there's nothing that could overshadow this band on this one because those guitars are just on fire. The production sounds great for 1970. That rhythm section is just top notch. But then you have Rod come in and he gives one of his nastiest vocal performances of all time. It's just really, really raspy, sleazy, just disgusting song. He's just shouting and he's just like, he's definitely not trying to sound like polished or pleasant or anything. He just wants to make the sleaziest rock song he can with this one. And it's a cover, but man, they make it their own, this band. And it's just such a killer track. I mean, this is a great album, a great era for Rod Stewart. I mean, he was one of the greatest talents out at this point vocally. There wasn't really anybody who was taking charge like him vocally at this point. He was just another level of vocalist. And I just think this song shows it, because even with instrumentation as good as this, he still makes it his song. And you can't go wrong with that.
Well said. I've got nothing much more to add to that, but his vocals were just so pure. They're raspy, they're gritty, but it's pure. No, outstanding. John, what do you got?
Okay, I'm going to keep reliving my youth here. So I'm going to recite the chorus here. Don't let them put you down. Don't let them push you around. Don't ever let them change your point of view. Young Turks from 1981's Tonight I'm Yours. That is synth pop bliss. What a wonderful keyboard line. Great story song about Billy and Patty. It's just so catchy. I loved this song in 81 and I still love this song today. My number 3 is Young Turks. And interestingly, one of the few hit singles you'll hear where they never say the title in the song.
No, that's interesting. All right. I like that song. I can't deny it. That was a top 10 hit in Australia, and that got played everywhere. Yeah, he was very energetic. Was he wearing the sun visor? And yeah, I think it was a very energetic film clip. Check it out. But yeah, that's
yeah,
bit of pop bliss, bit of Rod Stewart pop bliss there.
Oh yeah,
good stuff. All righty. So now I'm getting into another song. My next song is "I Know I'm Losing You," which is an old Temptation song. And this is from the Every Picture Tells You a Story, 1971. I think this is just one of the most expressive, emotive Rod Stewart performances. I love the track. It rocks. He's got a top-notch band. You've got Ronnie Wood on guitar. You've got Ronnie Lane on bass. And you've got Kenny Jones, who does this amazing drum solo. So you got this classic song, but the drum solo, and then when Rod comes in with the vocal, it just gives a shiver up your spine. This has always been one of my favorite Rod Stewart solo songs, and you could have sort of hear with that Kenny Jones. I'm diverting a little bit here, playing that drum solo that the Who were, their ears were pricked up. That when Keith passed away, they probably were sort of thinking, well, he's the guy that could probably do the job, filling the skins for the Who. But anyway, that's my number 3, and I love that song to pieces. I play it, multiple times. Yeah. All right, Ryan, what do you got? Next one, number 2.
So my number 2, I actually am going to go back to the Faces. When I went to see Rod Stewart live a couple months ago, there was one song that I was really, really excited. I mean, there's a lot of songs I was excited to hear, but there was one in particular I was really excited to hear, and that was "Stay With Me." And if we're talking about rock performances by Rod Stewart, this one has to be on there. This is one of the classic hard rock songs of all time, and his performance is killer on here. Just amazing riffing, amazing rhythm section here. And he just comes in blazing, talking about how he's going to kick you right through the door and stuff. Like, it's just amazing. And when he sang this live, I just had chills because Rod still sounds as good as he did 30, 40 years ago. He just sounds fantastic. And he nailed it. I was having so much fun. It was the encore, last song of the night. I was like, I am not leaving my seat until this song is over because such an amazing one of his classic vocal performances of all time. And yeah, Stay With Me. A nod is as good as a wink as my number 2 pick.
What can you say? That's a classic pick. I want to ask you the question, and great that you picked up the topic. So Rod's vocals still cut it. He hasn't lost it. Can you hear an aging process? Because Rod, obviously he's not going to sound like he did in 69 or 70, which was very pure, even though it had the gritty tone, but you could see it's a young bloke, very pure sounding. Describe how Rod's voice is now. Is it like a fine wine? Is it aged? How would you describe it? It's still...
I mean, obviously he's aged a little bit, but I think it is like fine wine. I don't think there was a moment where I was like, oh God, he sounds like crap. Like
upper register, is he still got it?
He sounds fine. I feel like I would have been just as happy with this show as I would have been going to a show in the 70s. He sounded fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. And to those people that haven't seen your show, tell me, with the song set, the Rod Stewart, did he do a lot of the older material, or was it mostly more recent material? Did he do a lot of the old Jeff Beck, Faces, early solo albums in his song list?
He did Faces stuff. He did early solo album stuff, a lot from the 80s, a lot from the 70s. I wouldn't say like a ton of really recent stuff. I think it was a set list that would be very, very well received by fans. He played a lot of the hits. He played like 23 songs.
Right.
And it was, he played, I'd say he basically played like a greatest hits album of songs, and it was fantastic.
So to those people, those fans who thought that he jumped the shark on when Atlantic Crossing, you flipped the album, that's where he jumped the shark. Do you think they would appreciate this concert?
I would say maybe. I mean, if I don't know, like he played maybe like 2 or 3 Faces songs. He played maybe like 4 or 5 songs from the early 70s. The rest of it was probably like later 70s, early 80s.
Yep.
I think people need to have a little bit more of an open mind if they think he jumped the shark at Atlantic Crossing. But yeah.
Yeah. And John, did you see him recently?
I have. I saw him as well. And he did sound good vocally. He stayed within his range. And that's why I think it worked. He didn't try to hit too many of the high notes, but they were still playing in the same key, which is great because a lot of these older artists, they tune down.
Yes.
But they played in the same key for him. He sounded very good, but like I said, he stayed in his range. There were certain high notes he didn't hit. I mean, I noticed that, but he, like as Ryan said, there was never a time where he sounded bad. He sounded very good. And he had a great band behind him and very talented singers behind him who were very beautiful and excellent musicians as well. Yeah. And they did some of the heavy lifting for him too. So, some of the choruses, and they also sang a few songs when he would go off stage to do a costume change. Like they did Call Me by Blondie. They did they opened with Addicted to Love by Robert Palmer, which that was a great open. I mean, it's not a song that Rod does, but I mean it was a good opener. But he sounded, for 77, he sounded excellent. And he sure as heck doesn't look 77. He looks like he's 55. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Well,
And he was up there having fun too. He was moving around and stuff. I mean,
working the
like I said,
audience.
yeah, I mean, he
Absolutely.
put on a show. There was bagpipes, there was all kinds of crazy stuff. There was like dancing, there was like multiple drummers at points, like smashing down and stuff. It was once of a lifetime kind of show for me. I mean, it was an experience more than a concert.
Well, if he comes this way, I'll
Okay.
definitely I'll tick him off because I've never seen him and he's definitely on my bucket list. But yeah, the reason why I was asking because it's been mooted over the last 20 years, a Faces reunion, and there was a sort of a conjecture out there that he just can't sing rock anymore, or rock over a whole concert. And there was real pressure, you know, that all the remaining alive band members of the Faces really wanted to do it, but he was resisting. And eventually they went out in the UK, and the lead singer was Mick Hucknall of Simply Red. Now, get your head around that. But you know, as the lead singer of the Faces. But yeah, I was just interested to know because yeah, there was conjecture that Rod can't do rock anymore. But I really appreciate and yeah, listening to your comments, and I'm looking forward to seeing him. So
Definitely worth it.
Absolutely, John, your pick.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to 1971 on this one, and this is from Every Picture Tells a Story. This is a beautiful song, Mandolin Wind. The title is the showcase instrument, is in the title. It's just beautiful song, beautiful ballad. I love the end with the la da 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 da. It's just a beautiful tune that, I mean, it's just wonderful. And there's a lot you could pick from that album, but that's the one that's always hit home for me, is Mandolin Wind. That's gonna be my number 2.
That's an outstanding pick, and you got to think about his solo. What a run! Those first couple of albums, Rod Stewart, it was just they're almost 5-star album or 5-star albums. No, that's where his legend was born. No, great.
Absolutely.
Well, my next pick is an old, was written by Mike Diabo of Manfred Mann. It was the theme song for the UK version of The Office, if you guys are familiar with it. And I'm talking about Handbags and Glad Bags. I find this a really melancholy, emotional song. It's off the old Raincoat Will Never Let You Down album. And yeah, I just think it's one of Rod's more expressive songs. It's bare emotion, and there's nothing like Rod where he's pouring out his heart, and you just can hear it in the tonality of his voice. And I love the lyrics to this, even though, you know, with slight diversion, you know, a way to happiness is not through being trendy, talking to a teenage girl. I think it's just a lovely lyric, and it's a great song, and that's my number 2 pick. Rightio. Right.
All right. So my last choice is off the album, or my number 1 choice is off the album Never a Dull Moment. Originally a Jimi Hendrix song. And I will say this. I think that this song here that I'm going to talk about is the only time I've ever heard someone do a Jimi Hendrix song better than the original. Because the soul that's on this version of this song is unmatched. I'm talking about Angel. Oh my gosh, this song is so beautiful. I mean, I think you get a mix of both a more subtle side of Rod during the verses, where he's a little smoother sounding, still has the rasp, but a much more laid back kind of feel, more tender. And then you go into that chorus and the soul just comes out of him. You're my sweet angel. Like, and just the rasp in his voice, the notes that he hits, just coupled along with the guitar and everybody else, it's just so beautiful. I mean, this version of this song gives me chills, and I love the Jimi Hendrix version too, but this is, for me, the best version of this song, both because of the band that was playing. They knocked it out of the park. Especially, I think it's Ronnie Wood on the bass. Am I correct there? Or,
Yeah, probably.
you know,
If you've got that
yeah.
big fat bass sound, it's Ronnie.
I mean, the bass lines on this are gorgeous. That guitar tone, out of this world. And then, like I said, Rod's voice is just wow on this one. I love it. So my number one choice is Angel off of Never a Dull Moment.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. I mean, to be born with natural nodes on your voice like that. I mean, he it's like a, you know, I know you got the gift.
Mm-hmm.
John, take it away with your choice.
Well, I'm going to piggyback off of Ryan in the fact that Rod Stewart was a fantastic interpreter of songs. I think that it's, as far as in my opinion, as an interpreter of other people's material, it's him and Joe Cocker. They were both, Joe Cocker was more blues based stuff, but they were the best in my opinion, my favorites. And I'm going with a Tom Waits song from 1989. It was from the Storyteller box set, and the song's called Downtown Train. And he hit it out of the park with this song. When I hear this song, I think of Christmas because it was all over the radio on Christmas in 1989. He took this great song from the Rain Dogs album from Tom Waits that sounds a little sparse, and he gave it this new life between his vocal performance, the orchestration, the performance from the musicians around him, the piano line, the everything about it. It just works. His voice gets stronger and stronger as the song goes on. I mean, it's just, I mean, this is best Rod Stewart performances for my money. You can't go better than Downtown Train. I still love this song so much to this day, and that's my number one.
That is an outstanding pick. And correct me if I'm wrong, does that have Jack Beck play guitar on that track?
Yeah, you hear him playing slide guitar during the fade out. During the fade out, you hear his slide guitar and that piano line in the distance.
Yes.
And it's just like a long fade out that's just so magical. It's wonderful.
No, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when that came out, everyone was getting excited. Jeff Beck, it's back. You know, wishing and hoping that they could do a collaboration over a full slab of vinyl, but it never happened. But
right.
Yeah. No, that's a great pick. Well, my number one is very ultra predictable. It was his big hit. It's on many compilations, and I'm talking about Maggie May. Great storytelling. It's a story between an affair between a young adult and an older lady, but Rod makes it compelling. And that's what a great interpreter of songs is, to make the lyrics compelling. You're telling a story.
Yes, sir.
And over 3 or 4 verses, this story of an affair is just essential. It's compelling. His vocals are just that beautiful grit, that rasp, and you can see why it was a worldwide hit around the world, and it is still played on classic radio today. And some people say maybe it's overplayed, but to me, I don't think it. You know, I can never get sick of it. And I think it's his masterpiece. It's one of his greatest songs. So would that be fair to say in American classic radio? If you had to look at the number one played Rod Stewart song, Maggie May would be the one that gets played on classic radio in those waters?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the most magical songs ever Mate, if you go see him live, wait till you see what they did with it live.
Yeah.
Holy
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
I love the
Oh
start
my
of the
gosh.
song where it's got that little acoustic bit and then it goes dum dum and then he goes,
Mhm.
"Wake up, Maggie." I just
It's a
love it.
little different what they did live. I was a little
Right.
bit thrown off initially, but man, every moment of it was amazing. Like they brought a whole new life to the song. I was trying not to cry during it. It was so beautiful.
I did cry.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
I get it. I totally get it. And where was that played in the song list? Was it towards the end or was it one of his openers?
It was like the middle of the set list for me.
Right.
It was like
No,
smack
middle.
dab in the middle. Yeah, because they did the beginning, which was kind of a lot more of the rocking type of stuff. That was like right in the middle. Then
Yep.
they like had a whole acoustic set where they all
Yep.
sat down and they just all had all acoustic instruments and him singing and stuff. And then it went back to a couple more rock songs. It was
Yeah. No, I find that surprising. I would have thought that he would put that towards the end because a lot of the artists, they save their best songs towards the end. And for the big payola. So it's interesting that that's a little bit contrarian that he would be putting probably his most popular song right slap bang in the middle. So that's interesting, varying it up a little bit.
He closed the set with Hot Legs, and then the encore was Stay With Me. Ooh La La was the second song in the set list for me. So he put the big stuff all over the set list.
Yeah. Well, when you've got a catalogue of hits as long as your arm, he can do whatever the bloody hell he wants. He can just mix it up. But anyway, Maggie May, that's my favorite. But this is just a cheapy compilation. And I was just looking, there's so many others like Gasoline Alley, Street Fighting Man. What a great version of that. That's on a par with the Stones version. An Old Raincoat Will Ever Let You Down. Country Comfort, Only a Hobo, Bobby Dylan.
Yep.
Cindy's Lament, Cut Across Shortly, It's All Over Now, the old Womack song. He's just a great interpreter.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
What's next for Rod? What do you think? If you were, Rod's manager or your sort of mentor, even though he doesn't need a mentor, he's 77 years. What would you tell Rod? What get back to rock, do an acoustic album? What would you like to hear Rod do next? Because he's done everything he has to do. He's 77. He doesn't need to prove anything. But what would you like to hear Rod do if he went into the studio and did another, album?
Honestly, for me, I would say I would like to just see him, because he's 77 years old. We don't know how much longer we're going to have him. I'd just say enjoy whatever time he has left. I don't care if he never makes another album. If he wants to do it, do whatever he wants. If he wants to play performances, do whatever he wants. But at this point, I think it would just be up to him. I don't think there should be any expectations because he's had almost 60-year career of a lot of amazing stuff. So I think at this point it should just be on his terms. And if that means just retiring and enjoying the last few or however many years he has of life, I say go for it. He more than deserves it.
Yeah.
I feel like Ryan does. If he never made another album, that's cool with me. I mean, what a catalog, what a life. I mean, if he just go out and tour every summer, just play all those great songs, mix the songs up because he's got so many hits. I mean, there were so many hits we didn't hear the nights that we saw him that he could have done. Just mix that up a little bit. Just keep on go out and tour 3-4 months a year and then go back and enjoy the life. I mean, like Ryan said, what else could he do?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to see him get back with Beck and just one more, even if it's a little bit acoustic or bluesy. I'd love to hear him, just with his vocals and, Jeff Beck do some slide. Anyway, I'm being a bit selfish. But yeah, you can do whatever you want, Rod Stewart, if you're watching. Thanks, guys. That was a total gas. I knew you guys would deliver the goods, and you did. 5 tracks, but it's a bit of a hard task when you have to pick 5 tracks. I'd say it's just 5 tracks that we like, because really, how do you rank it with a guy that's got a catalog as wide as the ocean? It's immense. But please like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. Put your comments of what you think of the our picks or ones that we've missed. Please check out these guys on their channels. You can see them. Great content. And I'm sure we'll do another show soon. See ya.